It's 2023, and the United States is facing a massive anti-Semitism problem. It's like a cancer metastasizing all across our nation, and it's mostly being driven by young, radical leftists who thinks they're self-proclaimed advocates for oppressed people. Let's take a look at this scene. You see it right there outside nation's capital today. Tens of thousands of Hamas cheerleaders. They gathered in Washington, D.C. to demand a ceasefire in Gaza. And of course, they're condemning Israel, accusing them of a genocide. Organizers said that this could have been the largest mobilization for Palestine in the history of the United States. Of course, no mention there of the atrocities perpetuated by Hamas against the Israelis. To discuss all of this, I'm joined by senior national security analyst and former acting director of national intelligence, Ric Grenell. Ric, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Lydia, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Ric, the White House has been so soft on condemning anti-Semitism. I mean, you see this afternoon, tens of thousands of these protesters marching through the streets of D.C. Fine, they have a right to do that. But when you're seeing our own members of Congress also spewing anti-Semitism and accusing Israel of genocide, and then I want you to take a listen to Kamala Harris. Instead of focusing on the Jewish people as being victims of hate crimes, where Christopher Wray of the FBI said that 60% of Jews make up the victims of hate crime victims, she instead focused on Islamophobia. They launched a new national strategy. Take a listen.
For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia.
So I looked up the FBI records, and hate crime victims that are Muslim, it's only 8%. So Ric, why are they doing this now? Are they trying to appease the radical left of their base?
I mean, look, first of all, we should say up front that any form of hate is wrong, and we would condemn it and make sure that we're trying to get rid of it. But the reality is that Kamala Harris has a problem right in her home. Her daughter, her stepdaughter, is raising money for Gazans who support Hamas. She is advocating for an organization, raising money, that will give money to the government in Gaza. That government in Gaza is Hamas. There is no two ways about it. You cannot support the government of Gaza because it is a terrorist organization. And this is the dilemma that the Biden administration has had for years, because they keep looking the other way and pretending, oh, it's a government in Gaza and we're going to support this government. But the reality is the government is a terrorist organization. And so herein lies the problem. So many people would like to help the innocents who are living in that region. But Lydia, it's really important for our viewers to remember that in 2005, 18 years ago, at the request of the Palestinians and other Arab governments, the Israelis moved out. They completely left Gaza and said, okay, this is now your territory. Rather than turn that into beautiful beaches and bring in hotels and commerce, they decided to dig tunnels and attack Israel and foment with terror. At the same time, the leaders of Hamas moved outside, because Gaza was not a nice place for anyone to live in. So the leadership just went to other places. They're now multi-millionaires. Some stats are showing that they're billionaires. So this is a scam on the people. And I have to say that the education system in the United States needs a total gut renovation, a reform, because we're raising kids who don't understand the basic facts about Israel.
Right, and that they hate America. They hate democracy. It is extremely frightening what's going on. And Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, I read one report, she raised about $8 million already. We also know that Joe Biden, he wants to appease everyone. But you can't always do that. And he's hemorrhaging support from Arab Americans. New polling this week shows a massive drop in Arab support for Biden since 2020, a 42% decrease in just 3 years, 59% to 17%, and 68% of those voters support the U.S. using its influence to demand a ceasefire. So, Rick, do you think that the Biden administration is hesitant to condemn anti-Semitism outright because they're afraid it'll hurt the re-election campaign?
Look, there's a video that is going around from 2012, the Democratic Convention, when the issue came up about where the capital of Israel was, whether it's really Jerusalem. And the boos and the anti-Israel rhetoric at that convention were just as loud as the pro-Israel movement. It was literally a 50-50 split. And when you think about that, that means that the Democratic Party has been growing towards an anti-Israel party for about 10 or 11 years. The media have completely ignored it. And now what's happening, because Joe Biden has been funding Iran, and we've seen now Hamas get enough money to launch this war in Israel. Now you see a whole bunch of Democrat activists who are saying, wait a minute, we have a war in Europe, we have a war in the Middle East. This is not going well. They are having problems specifically in Michigan, where in the Detroit area, there are a lot of Arab Americans who are frustrated that this war is going on. My mom lives in Michigan. I went to high school in Michigan. I have a lot of friends in Michigan.
I have a lot of family there,
they
too.
are concerned about this unfolding war. I think the Democrats are going to have a real problem winning Michigan.
I have more family in Michigan and the surrounding suburbs of Detroit, like Dearborn, and then you have Farmington Hills, and it is shocking the amount of support a lot of people there.
Well, nobody wants war. Nobody wants war, and that's what they're getting under Joe Biden.
Absolutely. Ric Grenell, thank you so much for joining us tonight.